Hey, how you guys doing? Did y'all know that Jay-Z has a lot of enemies? And one of them are being Beanie Sigel. They said, yeah, Beanie, Jay-Z knows not to mess with Beanie, honey, because he's dangerous. And Jay-Z, he has done so many people wrong, and we just don't know everything. Just like Diddy, more of his people have spoken out, but they said Jay-Z has a list longer than Diddy's, and they are afraid. They've been quiet, but Beanie, Beanie is not the one to play with. I want you guys to watch this video. Y'all need to see this to see more of how evil this guy Jay-Z really is, and don't be fooled. Beyonce knows what's going on, okay, and her mama and the family. Okay, so watch this video. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe here at the Messy Sweet Spot. I just want to say thank you all for the likes and shares. It goes a long way. Okay, so let's watch it here.
And they would only let Benny sell so many records, and that was it. And they wouldn't push it no more. But Benny, they would you couldn't be bigger than Jay-Z on Jay-Z's label. You couldn't sell more records than Jay-Z. But all you had to do was listen to Beanie Sigel, and Beanie Sigel was, oh my God.
If it got to go down, it's gonna go down. I'm gonna bust your ass all the way around the board. That's just how I am. When you cross that line to the point where I got to move out, no hesitation, dog. He understands.
Beanie Sigel is widely regarded as one of the best MCs in hip-hop, playing a big role in shaping the sound of early 2000s rap.
I still close my eyes, I still see visions.
But Beanie wasn't just known for his skills on the mic. He had a serious reputation in the streets too. In fact, he was still active in the streets while balancing his rap career, earning him the nickname the Broad Street Bully.
If it got to go down, it's gonna go down. I'm gonna bust your ass all the way around the board. That's just how I am.
And with a name like that, you already know crossing him wouldn't end well. Apparently, Jay-Z learned this the hard way when he tried to play Beanie.
Damn, dog, that's how you feel. I feel as though you owe me a conversation.
Right.
That's it. You too big to talk to me? When you cross that line to the point where I got to move out, no hesitation, dog. He understand that.
Word is, Jay-Z sabotaged Beanie multiple times, and as someone who came from the streets, Beanie wasn't about to let that slide. He made it clear he wasn't one to mess with, and was reportedly ready to take their beef beyond music and into the streets. Meanwhile, Jay-Z kept quiet, but silence didn't mean safety, not when dealing with someone like Beanie.
And they would only let Benny sell so many records, and that was it. And they wouldn't push it no more. But Benny, they would you couldn't be bigger than Jay-Z on Jay-Z's label.
Beanie's street cred was no joke. He was known for handling things directly, like the time he almost beat up some guys who tried to rob Kanye West.
Kanye was like at a diner or something. You know the story already? He was feeling how some dudes was like looking at him sideways at his jewelry or whatever. Yeah. And he started to get kind of nervous, and he called you up.
Stories like that solidified his no-nonsense reputation. So when it came to his issues with Jay-Z, Beanie wasn't about to let him off the hook easily. There's a lot to unpack, so let's break it down further. Beanie Sigel's life is the kind of story that belongs on the big screen, a true roller coaster with epic highs and devastating lows. His journey took him to the pinnacle of the rap game, only to see it all come crashing down. From the streets of South Philly to the heights of hip-hop superstardom, Beanie's life is as raw and unfiltered as his music. Born and raised in South Philadelphia, Beanie grew up in a tough environment with his mom and 3 siblings. His relationship with his father was complicated, to say the least. According to Beanie, his dad was around and not around at the same time, creating a void that shaped much of his upbringing. Trouble came early. He started getting into it at just 9 years old. By the time he was 14, Beanie had fully jumped off the porch, immersing himself in a lifestyle that involved robbery, drugs, and all the chaos that came with it.
I've been getting in trouble since 9 years old, juvenile police.
At 14, you got locked up and you went to the farm.
Yeah, Slayton Farms. Yeah, I got locked up 14. I think that was probably the same thing, like robbery.
The streets of Philly were his stomping grounds, and they molded him into the no-nonsense figure he'd later become. Fast forward to the late 90s. Beanie was still living that street life, but fate had something else in store. One day, while hanging out with his friend Bubonic, a member of Philly's Most Wanted, Beanie ended up in a casual rap battle. It was all fun and games, but Boo was blown away by what he heard. He saw the raw talent Beanie didn't even realize he had and immediately told him he needed to come to a meeting with Roc-A-Fella Records. Now to set the stage. This was before Roc-A-Fella became the powerhouse it's remembered as today. Jay-Z had dropped Reasonable Doubt in 1996, and while it was a solid debut, the label was far from the behemoth it would eventually become. At that time, Beanie wasn't even thinking about rap as a career. He was more focused on the streets, and on the day of the meeting, had actually planned to hit up a dogfight to play some bets. To him, skipping that for a meeting about music seemed like a waste of time. This kind of thinking would pop up repeatedly in Beanie's life, a tendency to prioritize the streets over everything else. But after some convincing from Boo, who told him this was a real opportunity with contracts on the table, Beanie reluctantly agreed to tag along. That decision, though made half-heartedly at the time, turned out to be the turning point of his life. When Beanie stepped into that Roc-A-Fella meeting, it was like lightning in a bottle. His raw, gritty style and authenticity stood out instantly. Jay-Z, Dame Dash, and the rest of the team saw the potential in him and wasted no time in bringing him on board. Suddenly, Beanie Sigel went from the streets of South Philly to rubbing shoulders with some of the biggest names in hip-hop. Joining Roc-A-Fella launched his career to the masses, and he became a key player in the label's meteoric rise. Beanie Sigel joined Roc-A-Fella Records right before the label skyrocketed to legendary status. Timing is everything, and for Beanie, the stars aligned perfectly. His debut album, The Truth, dropped in 2000 and made an immediate impact, selling 150,000 copies in its first week. That was a big deal for a new artist, and it firmly established Beanie as one of the hottest voices in hip-hop at the time.
BC go with that arsenic flow. Dad, don't hold me.
This success wasn't just about Beanie's talent, though. It was part of a bigger wave happening at Roc-A-Fella. Jay-Z was dominating the early 2000s, and his momentum created what some call the no-limit effect. If you're wondering what that means, think back to when Master P was at his peak. His No Limit records created such a buzz that fans were thirsty for anything with the No Limit tank logo. It didn't matter if it was Master P's album or his cousin's mixtape, people just wanted more. Jay-Z and Roc-A-Fella tapped into that same energy. By the time Beanie came into the fold, the Roc-A-Fella brand was like a golden ticket. Anything they touched, albums, merch, even movies, was practically guaranteed to succeed. And speaking of movies, Roc-A-Fella decided to dip into Hollywood with State Property in 2002, a hood classic that still holds its own in the streets today. State Property was more than just a movie. It was a cultural moment. Beanie played the main character, Fridge, and the story revolved around the street life and hustling that Beanie knew all too well.
Oh, Bill. Going get down or you going to lay down.
Honestly, it's hard to say how much of his performance was acting and how much was just Beanie being himself. Either way, he nailed it. The movie was a financial win too, earning $2 million on a modest $600,000 budget. That's the kind of return Roc-A-Fella loved to see. The success of State Property wasn't just about the film. It coincided with the creation of the State Property Rap Group, a collective that Beanie spearheaded alongside Freeway. This wasn't just some thrown-together crew either. State Property had real talent, including Petey Crack, the Young Guns, Neef Buck and Young Chris, Oshino, and Emilio Sparks. Together, they brought a raw energy to Roc-A-Fella that perfectly complemented the label's vibe. Their first project as a group was the State Property movie soundtrack, which featured the now classic Rock the Mic by Beanie and Freeway. That track was everywhere, and it set the stage for their next release, The Chain Gang Vol. 2, in 2003. That album didn't just keep the momentum going, it elevated it. The Young Guns' single Can't Stop Won't Stop became a hit and even earned a Grammy nomination for Best Rap Performance by a Duo or Group.
It's BC in a place with young free, and I got what it takes to rock the mic right, yeah.
Now, Beanie Sigel's reputation as a real street dude always followed him, no matter how much success he had in music. While his Roc-A-Fella peers were busy building their rap careers and enjoying the perks of fame, Beans always seemed to have one foot planted firmly in the streets. That reputation wasn't just talk. He backed it up on more than one occasion. One story that shows just how loyal and street-savvy Beanie was happened in 2002. Kanye West, who was still new to the Roc-A-Fella family and fresh off getting his first rock chain, decided to hit up a spot in Philly with his crew for some late-night eats. As they were sitting there, a group of guys approached them. They were smiling, looking friendly, but their intentions were far from it. These dudes were planning to rob Kanye and his crew once they left the restaurant. Kanye, not being from Philly and clearly sensing something was off, decided to call up Beanie. It didn't take long. Within minutes, Beans showed up with a squad of his own.
Like, hurry up, and when you come out of here, it's going down.
The would-be robbers didn't stand a chance. Whatever they had planned ended as soon as Beans walked through the door, making it clear that Kanye was off limits. That's just the kind of person Beanie was. He looked out for his people, no questions asked. But Beanie didn't just have Kanye's back in dangerous situations. He also played a part in helping Kanye craft his identity as an artist. According to Kanye himself, it was Beanie who came up with the now iconic nickname Yeezy. That's a huge deal when you think about how much that name has become a part of Kanye's brand.
I don't understand.
Because he made up the name Yeezy. He used to call me Yeezy.
Unfortunately, that street loyalty and mentality eventually caught up with him. By 2005, Beanie's constant juggling of street life and his rap career took a turn for the worse. He ended up in jail for a year, and the timing couldn't have been worse. While Beans was locked up, Roc-A-Fella Records was falling apart. Jay-Z and Dame Dash, the two titans behind the label, were at odds, and their feud essentially split Roc-A-Fella down the middle. When Beanie Sigel got out of jail, he came back to a Roc-A-Fella Records that was in shambles. The label he had once been a major part of was no longer the same powerhouse it used to be, and things had already hit the fan. To make matters worse, his own group, State Property, had decided to stay loyal to Jay-Z, which had to sting for Beans. It wasn't just business, it was personal. Beanie openly questioned the loyalty of his crew, wondering how they could stick with Jay after everything. In interviews, Beanie made it clear that he wasn't feeling Jay at the time. He even said he was leaning towards signing with Dame Dash and Biggs Burke's new venture, Dame & Dash Music Group. His reasoning? Beanie claimed he had a stronger personal relationship with Dame and Biggs than he ever did with Jay. He explained, "I've never been around Jay on an off day. It ain't like I made a choice of running with Dame and Biggs or Dame and Biggs held me down through my whole trial. It's not that. I would be a sucker if I said I signed with the Dame & Dash Music Group. Because they did that for me. It's love. You see how we chillin' now? This ain't about no business." Still, Beanie didn't want to pick sides in the Roc-A-Fella Civil War. Despite his feelings about Jay, he clarified that he wasn't trying to throw himself into the middle of the conflict. Instead, he reopened talks with Roc-A-Fella and eventually decided to stay with the label. In 2006, Beanie officially re-signed with Roc-A-Fella and got back to work on his music. He started recording for his fourth studio album, The Solution, and by 2007, he was back with a new single, All the Above, featuring R. Kelly. The song debuted at number 83 on the US R&B charts, and when The Solution dropped later that year, it made its way to number 37 on the Billboard charts. It looked like Beanie was trying to regain his footing, but cracks were already starting to show. The reality was that Beanie's career, and really the careers of most Roc-A-Fella artists who weren't Jay-Z, was on a downward spiral. Many industry insiders have since spoken about what went wrong during that time, and a lot of fingers point back to Jay. Comedian TK Kirkland shared a story he heard from a producer who worked with Roc-A-Fella. According to this producer, there was an unspoken rule at the label. No artist could be allowed to outshine Jay-Z. If your success started creeping too close to his, the brakes would be applied, hard.
And they would only let Benny sell so many records. And that was it. And they wouldn't push it no more. But Benny, you couldn't be bigger than Jay-Z on Jay-Z's label.
For Beanie, that meant his albums weren't pushed as hard as they could have been. Even when he delivered solid projects, they never got the full marketing and promotional backing needed to reach their full potential. And it wasn't just TK Kirkland saying this. Dame Dash himself has also hinted at similar sabotage. Dame claimed that if Beanie had signed with him instead of re-upping with Jay, he had big plans to take Bean's career to new heights.
When Beans chose to go with Jay, that one hurt. Because I'd done a lot and prepared. I chose State Property over Rockware. But it almost like he tricked Beans to shelf him. And
Beanie Sigel himself has opened up about some personal moments that shaped his life and career, especially when it came to his relationship with Jay-Z. He mentioned how Jay-Z influenced his approach to writing music, specifically noting that Jay-Z, who was known for not writing his lyrics down, encouraged Beanie to adopt the same style. This change was significant for Beanie, altering his creative process.
Do you write?
No.
Oh, you don't write?
No. I picked that up from Jay. He made me not write.
One of the most painful moments in their relationship came in 2003 when Beanie was battling serious legal troubles. Jay-Z showed up for him in court and spoke on his behalf, but he made it clear that he wouldn't take responsibility for keeping Beanie out of trouble. For someone like Beanie, who had looked up to Jay as a brother figure, it was a crushing blow. "I never been crushed like that ever in my life," Beanie admitted later. "That effed me up. That took away a lot of S that I thought we had. Like, that's big, bro." This moment left Beanie reeling. It wasn't just about the case. It was the realization that the bond he thought they had wasn't as strong as he believed. It was a turning point in their relationship, one that left a scar on Beanie's trust. However, not everyone agrees with the narrative that Jay-Z sabotaged Beanie's career. Many fans and industry insiders argue that Jay actually did a lot to boost Beanie's career, from signing him to Roc-A-Fella to featuring him on tracks and pushing his music. But at the end of the day, Beanie's personal choices seem to play a bigger role in his downfall. The truth is, Beanie couldn't keep himself out of trouble, and those decisions began to overshadow his undeniable talent. In 2006, Beanie became a victim of a shooting during an attempted robbery, although he managed to escape and drive himself to the hospital. And it wasn't like this was an isolated incident. Just a month before the shooting, Beanie had been released from jail after serving time for failing to pay child support. Then in 2009, he was arrested again in New Jersey for possession charges. By 2010, Beanie found himself in even deeper trouble when he was hit with 3 counts of failing to pay taxes on over $1 million in income. The result was a 25-month prison sentence, and if that wasn't enough, just 2 weeks before reporting to prison for his tax case, Beanie was arrested yet again, this time in Philadelphia, for drugs, weapons, and conspiracy charges after being pulled over by police. It seemed like no matter how hard he tried, the streets wouldn't let go of him, or maybe he couldn't let go of the streets. By September 2012, Beanie was locked up, serving his 2-year sentence for tax evasion. But because of the charges he caught just before reporting to prison, an additional 23 months were tacked on to his time. It was a rough patch, but Beanie finally got out on August 14, 2014 and was sent to a halfway house to start rebuilding his life. Unfortunately, trouble followed him yet again. Just 4 months after his release, Beanie was shot in New Jersey, and this time it was bad. He had to be rushed to the hospital for emergency surgery. The injuries were so severe that he ended up losing a lung. Beanie Sigel spent what should have been his most productive years bouncing in and out of jail during a time when music sales were breaking records left and right. He had everything going for him. A prime spot on Roc-A-Fella, the most popular rap label of the era, a foot in the door with acting, and connections to some of the hottest clothing lines of the time. He even played a part in shaping Kanye West's brand, coining the iconic Yeezy nickname. According to Beanie, Kanye offered him a staggering $50 million as a token of gratitude for the moniker, but he turned it down, a move that left many scratching their heads. Looking back, it's hard not to question that decision, especially when you consider Beanie's current financial situation. Reports estimate his net worth today at just $100,000, a shocking figure for someone who once stood at the forefront of hip-hop's golden era. Physically, Beanie's not in the best shape either. Losing a lung took a toll on his body. His voice sounds noticeably different, and he's lost a significant amount of weight. It's painful to see someone who had the world at their fingertips end up here. By all accounts, Beanie should be worth millions today, living comfortably off his contributions to the culture. Instead, it feels like he squandered his potential and wealth trying to maintain a tough guy image that ultimately cost him more than it gave. Of course, some people argue that Jay-Z might have played a role in Beanie's fallout, but there's another perspective that's gaining traction. Maybe Jay saw something others didn't. Say what you want about Jay-Z, and there's plenty that could be said, but one thing's clear. Jay knew when and how to leave the streets behind. He transitioned out of that life at the perfect time and focused on building a lasting legacy. Beanie, on the other hand, couldn't seem to let go of that lifestyle, and it seems like...
Whew, it's sad. It is sad how Jay-Z and Diddy are trying to control and just bully and sabotage other black men's success. It's really sad out here. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe to this YouTube channel, The Messy Sweet Spot. I appreciate you guys. It goes a long way. And I'll see you guys on the next upload.